It's Camino. It's Classical Dream to Mills Hill. The coup! Go Coolally!
Someplace. Alright lads, and welcome back to the Blair White Brief for this week. It's going to be probably not one of the great episodes, I'll warn you just now. Obviously there's just not that much to report on. This awful case of equine influenza has kind of swept across England after Donald McCain had three runners fall kind of foul of it, I suppose, at Ludlow and Ayr, and they're having to take the necessary precautions, which means at the moment racing in England is banned until next Wednesday at the least. Racing in Ireland is just about taking place, but I suppose it just means that it's very bare, and obviously I'd hoped when I was planning this episode that we were going to have a big Newbury preview, you know, Betfair Hurdle, Denman Chase, all that. It looked like even Undersow was going to come over and run in the game spirit, but it's not to be. But obviously that's going to be the main portion of this episode, is discussing this, because I do feel that some people are kind of seeing it, like if you're a lover of the game, like you admire the game, you want the game to be run the right way, you just have to accept that this has to happen. These precautions have to be made. At the end of the day, like, I know it's an overused thing on ITV racing, on Sky Sports racing and all that, but horse safety is paramount. Like, personally, I'd prefer for there not to be racing than to see racing and see one of your favourite horses or a couple of your favourite horses just absolutely run terribly. It's not fair on them. It could cause further harm down the line. Look, hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, they have reacted quite quickly to the situation, and therefore we could get to next Wednesday and they say, look, it seems grand. I doubt that will be the case, if I'm being honest. I think it'll be a couple of weeks like this, which is obviously not great. It's not ideal. It's woeful for English trainers in terms of trying to get something together for Cheltenham, but at the moment you just have to, you know, it is a nagging thought at the back of your head, you know, is this going to affect Cheltenham? You know, obviously in 2001 Cheltenham was abandoned. Wasn't for this, but a similar type of thing that spread. So, you know, it can be done, and therefore, you know, I know we're here going, oh, how are they going to get their prep runs for Cheltenham? Is there going to be a Cheltenham? I think there will be. You know, there's still 4 or 5 weeks to go. Hopefully in 4 or 5 weeks' time this will all be sorted. But it obviously just does put a little bit of a cloud over it at the moment. And you just like to see it rectified as soon as possible, and hopefully everyone can be as sound as possible, to be honest. You know, you don't like seeing sick horses. You hate hearing about it. Well, I hate hearing about it anyway. And I think if you see some people around that are giving out that they're overreacting and stuff like that, I think that's just people that are, you know, they're just not understanding at all. You know, they're just there for racing because they want to bet on racing, you know, and that's not what we're in it for, you know, all the time. You know, obviously it's good to have a bet, it's good to have that vested interest and all that. That's why we love the game, that's why we back horses. But there has to be a line drawn where, you know what, it's just too far to be pushing these horses if there's even a small, and I do mean really small, risk that they're going to be sick. You just can't do it to them. You know, it's not fair on them. It's like somebody like you having a massive flu, you know, really, really bad, and somebody's just there forcing you to run. You have to run today. You have to run today. You don't want to, like, and it's just not, you wouldn't get, you know, you wouldn't allow that happen to yourself. So there's no reason we should make horses do it either. It's just my opinion on the matter. I just think we need to be very calm, very collected, and hopefully, you know, the thing will resolve itself as soon as possible. In terms of the weekend racing, there really isn't much to say, to be honest. There's a card at Naas tomorrow, and there's a card at Punchestown on Sunday, giving us a hint of action. The one horse, actually, of the whole weekend that I really want to see is City Island in the opener at Naas tomorrow. I know I've gone on about him a couple of times now, but he's got good form in the book, and I don't know whether Martin Braswell will take this horse over to Cheltenham. I somewhat doubt he will, because, you know, they'll save him for another day, sort of stuff, like he's a chaser in the making. He's only a 6-year-old as well, still plenty of time to mature. If I'm being honest, looking at this race, he really should win it. I can't see, probably the Echo Boy for Dermot Anthony McLaughlin is probably his biggest challenger, maybe Chavi Artis. Like, he should be beating these horses, really, if he was to be any sort of a Cheltenham horse. And I'd just like to see, I think he'll go off pretty prohibitive odds, so maybe it's not a backable proposition. But I'm just interested to see his progression after that Christmas run. Looked a good race. You look at it now, it's stacking up very well. Dallas Day Picked On has won twice since. He was well behind that day. So I think that could be a good race. Or a good, you're looking forward to perhaps a decent enough performance. In the Mare's Chase, I'd be siding with Prava Laguna for Willie Mullins. She's a bit of a hit and miss mare, but when she hits, she's a really good mare. I think she'll go close. And Punchestown, I haven't really looked through it, to be honest. At the moment, I have to say my kind of optimism and stuff like that is just at a bit of a low because of what's happening. It's hard to be there kind of going, oh, geez, can't wait for Punchestown, when it's the only card, and it is a shame, but that's unfortunately the game we live in. You can't knock them for doing that. If I was to have a little bet on, again, I'd say he'll be short-ish, but in the 350 at Punchestown, I think impact factor surely is going to go close. He's run some very good races over fences now. He's beginning to get the hang of it and surely can get his head in front. Just a little reflection probably on last weekend, just to fill out a minute or two more. The Dublin Racing Festival. I kind of said it all in my vlog, to be fair, so I'm probably repeating myself more than anything. But I thought it was a very good weekend. I thought there was a lot of people that crabbed it, saying, be on the ground and omitted hurdles and stuff like that. Like, get a grip. Like, we still saw 6 or so, I could name you 5 or 6 terrific performances, 2 or 3 visually superb, and then 2 or 3 fantastic finishes. The grade ones were superb races. I thought we found a lot of clues. We saw a lot of things that we wouldn't have got otherwise. And I just can't have these people that crabbed it as a 2-day meeting this year. I thought it was an absolute crackerjack of a meeting. And I can't wait for next year of it. But anyway, I think that's probably it for this week's edition of The Brief. Unfortunately, it's not as exciting as it could have been. Hopefully we get to next Friday and we might have some proper Saturday racing to preview. But for now, the moral of the story, don't be panicked. Hopefully this thing will just clear over, but allow them to take the precautions. Hopefully the horses will come back to full fitness and be all good, and Cheltenham will still be going ahead in 4 weeks' time. And lastly, hopefully City Island is a certainty tomorrow. I'll see you next week. Best of luck.